Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the Master None Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Stephen Murphy. I'm joined by the usual crew here, Westy and Sam rocking the sweet Lantern jersey. We watched the game, actually. That game, obviously, the jersey was worn. Munster Connacht. I was watching it with Westy. Emotional scenes, Westy. Westy just teared up seeing Tiernan O'Halloran gallop across the line. Beautiful thing, yeah. And cool jerseys. Which haven't yet been. They only wore them once, right? Westy, you were saying that.
Only once, yeah. That was the only game they wore them for. Was it for charity, Sam? Was there a reason?
Yeah, there was a charity element to it. But BLK did a whole series of them. So Ospreys, because they were black, got a
right,
Batman, and I think it was Rebels in Australia got Superman, and there was the Flash one. One of the French teams who wear red got Flash. So there was a whole series of them. They did it over the same course of a week.
Who got Ant-Man?
Ant-Man's
Marvel, not DC.
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
Get it right.
I didn't know I was doing the podcast with two nerds.
They missed an absolute trick. They missed a trick not putting the ref in a Daredevil one because the referee's blind. That would have been the best.
That would have been good. Yeah,
that would have been good.
Can't see the referee signing on to that, but
yeah, but Ben Whitehouse couldn't see anything, so we'll leave it at that.
We discussed actually, Ben. Why are we talking about this game?
Always going to.
We're going. Connacht somehow in a Super Rugby Aotearoa podcast get mentioned.
Superheroes, Super Rugby.
Yeah. Connacht always get mentioned. I refuse to do a podcast. I plug in Connacht.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of plugging, check out if you haven't already. I did a podcast last week with Dr. Brian Higgins. From Galway Primary Care. Very interesting man, knows a lot about sports injury prevention, and goes into actually cryotherapy as well and some of the myths and truths about that. So check that out. It's on obviously the podcast, and then it's also on YouTube and small snippets, including Sean O'Brien's hip resurfacing surgery, which sounds extremely painful.
The whole thing sounded horrendous.
Yeah, it does. But check that out on YouTube. But obviously this week we're focusing on week 8 of the Super Rugby Aotearoa. I know it's because it's 8 weeks, 2 months of Super Rugby, and it's still producing the goods. So Saturday morning, forgive me, Hurricane. I've had two massive mess ups.
Next one you're out.
Next week. Sorry, I forgive myself. Crusaders and Chiefs. Going into this, I think we all pretty much assumed that Crusaders would romp away with this. And after the first few minutes, I thought they were going to put up a massive number because score pretty much first few minutes, Sanders crashes over, and I mean crashes over Damien McKenzie. Poor Damien McKenzie got absolutely flattened. Good attempt. Well, no, not a good attempt. Again, goes high in the tackle, which I think we've seen a few of that now in Super Rugby. It's like, I know, look, I'm not one to tell how to tackle a rampaging number 8 coming at you, but I don't think going high is going to get it done. And then Will Jordan follows up quickly afterwards. So at that stage, I thought it was going to be an absolute rout. Sam, what did you think as well when there were 12 points up that early?
Yeah, straight out the traps, I thought it was going to be. I was like, Crusaders are going to make a massive statement now coming off the back of the loss to Hurricanes the week before. So I was like, this is going to be horrible on the poor Chiefs, who have no confidence at all coming out of 7 straight losses now in the tournament. It was never going to look easy. But I actually thought either Crusaders took the foot off the gas a little bit, or Chiefs kind of upped it a little bit for pride reasons. But Chiefs looked okay. Again, like we said, this is probably our 6th time saying this, where Chiefs were not unlucky, but they were not that bad. They keep playing okay and losing. So it's sad to say. When you get back onto McKenzie, though, I was thinking there, I wouldn't be surprised if McKenzie got one of those sweet little sabbatical years off in Japan next year, just to get him over the emotional torment of this mini season. He's just been beating the shit out of it. And the poor lad is trying to some points he's the only Chiefs player that looks like he's trying anything, and the rest of them are like, go Damien, go. He's
leading so many statistical categories, runs, meters, kicks.
Isn't he the second highest point scorer in the league in the tournament?
Yeah,
they haven't won a game yet. That's ridiculous. How's that happened?
Well, I can't remember how much he actually scored at the points, but I think he scored 80% of the points, bar the tries. I think he scored 9 points to start up the second half to keep them in the game just from penalties. So, Wesley, did you kind of see the Crusaders romping away with it, and the Chiefs responded pretty well?
I kind of always thought that the Crusaders would run away with it, but I was really optimistic and kind of like, I'm thinking, how many could Chiefs lose? They're going to win at some point. Like, there's probability. Like, you will win eventually. Look at Ireland and the All Blacks. Like 99 defeats and we beat them once. It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, when they make a documentary about the first Chiefs win, that night in August,
August, yeah.
I know, but I think I think Lachlan Boshier had a great game. I think he's been one of the surprise standouts for the Chiefs. Sam Cane again was all right. I was a little bit more involved this game than the last few games, I thought. But
I thought Cane was excellent this week. Actually, I'm looking back at I put together a team of players from the 2 games that I thought were good, and Cane was the only Chiefs player that I would have in it. I thought he was very, very good.
Man, Boshier is far better.
You think Boshier was better?
Where are you starting Cane? Who are your back 3? Where are you putting Cane?
From the weekend.
Westy's so upset.
Kane's at 7. Shannon Frizzell and Kiri Iani are my back.
My boy Papalini not getting in there. What the hell?
Yeah.
Papalini was good, but I don't know. Like, it's so hard to tell. Like,
if he had got that try, he would have made it, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I think actually, Westy, a bit of a shout to you. You're a big fan of a driving maul, if I do recall correctly.
I love a good driving maul.
I'm going to call this section maul porn. Crusaders score an incredible maul just before half time. They must have went 40 yards at least, right in the stretch of half time. Coy Taylor popping over. Just wanted to highlight maul porn of the week. That section is sponsored by Maul Porn. It's not. There's no sponsor.
But the maul came off that yellow card, which I think we were all pretty divided on the day. I thought he was going for the ball. I thought it was a fair challenge. Penalty, maybe.
I'd agree.
It was a yellow card.
Where I fell on it was penalty, yes. Yellow card, no. It's pure instinct. If someone passes the ball right in front of you, you're going to stick your hand out. Where I disagree with you, Westy, is you were saying he went like that on the ball. Sorry, for anyone listening, that was terrible. Putting his hand basically over
caught that?
the ball.
Look at that.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. Yeah, he put his hand on top of the ball rather than I would have said if he went underneath it and like maybe popped it up so he could catch it. But definitely not a yellow card.
I think this only comes up. I was talking to you about this at the time. I was texting you. I was like, I think this only comes up. One of the problems with the TMO in rugby and the going back and watching things again is they slow it down. And I understand the basis of slowing it down because you need to see the intricate stuff. But things look worse slowed down. Big hits look far worse slowed down. Reactionary things look like they're not reactionary slowed down. And that was a reactionary thing. It looks like he had any conscious effort to try to pat the ball down because that's the shape of his hand in super slow-mo. But if that's reactionary, he's trying to catch the ball. He's getting his hand there. He has it's instinctual. It's instinctive. There's no real way of controlling your hand there. And I think that that's something that should be addressed is TMO keep going to these super slow-mo versions of things. And then it just allows everyone to go nuts about something that was so instinctive that it takes less than a quarter of a second.
When it's instinctive like that, I think yellow card should be for like intentionally dirty play or whatever. That wasn't intentionally. I don't think.
No, not at all.
He wasn't.
I think that's our distinction. And the red is like intentional foul play,
Yeah, but for that though, for a knock on like that, if he's intentionally trying to he knows he's beaten just intentionally, I think he genuinely went to make a play on the ball. But again, we don't know. But the second half, then the Crusaders are kind of ahead, but then McKenzie kind of pulls the Chiefs back by scruff of the neck, a few penalties. It's 19 points to 20 in favor of the Crusaders, and then the talking point of the game, the knock on, was it or was it not? So, Westy, from your expert opinion, what did you think?
I already said it. I don't think.
No, not this knock on. For the try, Crusaders try.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it might have been. I see the ball bounces.
Yeah.
The ball's going forward because the player's going forward, but the ball doesn't fall forward.
He knocks it. The ball goes forward, but then when he actually passes it, it goes backwards. So that initial going forward, that's not a knock on once the ball doesn't touch the ground. Am I correct?
Yeah.
If it goes forward,
Yeah, but so the ball goes forward off him, but it doesn't hit the ground. He gathers it back, and
Yeah,
then
that's
the ball
fine.
goes.
That's just
You're allowed to fumble for the ball. Like.
Then
That's
the
you
ball
getting
goes
possession.
backwards. So in my opinion, not a knock on.
But see, the thing is what the commentators were saying, and what I think is the problem is that the ball technically lands forward of where he tapped it backwards. He tapped it backwards, but it still travels forward from the place where he tapped it backwards. That's where it's so ambiguous, and it's such
That's the momentum, isn't it?
It's probably the type of thing that we will not see again for years and years, because it's that much of a kind of series of unfortunate events. But he taps it backwards, so it leaves his hand going backwards, which by the letter of the law means that it's not forward. But it does travel forward from where that happens, because the way the ball is moving at the time, the way he's moving, and the way the entire play is going. So it makes it so hard to make a decision on. I think it's an extremely kind of tough decision to make. And the position they were in, I think, was the Chiefs were 2019 down at the time.
They were just the point down,
Yeah, that's the biggest kick in the sack of anything, because the Chiefs have they've gotten past a scare of Crusaders coming out of the traps. They go to 2019 down, and then such a controversial decision that I do think that there is argument for both sides there, because of the two things happening in the one play. It's so ambiguous that I think the smart decision personally would have been to just go for a scrum and just cut your losses. That's what I think. But we could be sitting here next week, and if Chiefs win, like if this had been a Chiefs win, we could have been talking about that huge decision where they didn't award the try. So it's 6-1 really. Like it's such a.
I think once it leaves his hands backwards, I think no matter, because we've seen before massive passes and it starts backwards, but maybe whether with spin or wind, the ball comes back kind of forward or level nearly. That technically the ball goes backwards and then forwards, but that's still, he passes backwards.
No, but if the ball leaves your hand and goes backwards and then forwards like that, that does constitute a forward pass. If you're in front,
I don't think it does. I think
it
once
does.
it
Yeah,
leaves
no,
backwards.
it's the leaving of your hand backwards thing is only counts if it ends up going flat or back from where you are. But if you pass it and it goes backwards and it goes forwards, then once it hits the ground in front of where you pass it from, that's a forward pass or knock on.
Okay. Well, I still think. Well, look, I would think it's fine once it leaves his hands backwards, but
but then you open it up like you can you open up to it getting skillful enough that you just put I don't know, side spin on it and it'll banana peel around like.
Yeah,
but then you see the other side of that, where if a ball sometimes it does go backwards, but once it's spilled by a player, the referee blows knock on regardless. So you see kind of both sides of it, where once they see a ball spilled, they don't even really check it; they just go, "Oh, knock on."
Yeah, it's such a strange circumstance. Just what happened. It was so in the moment. It was a thing that I don't think we'll be talking about again for a couple of years at least, where those two things happened simultaneously. That it's just really unfortunate on Chiefs, and I think that they can feel aggrieved. I think that they went to check the ball, and it's too hard a decision to make that quickly. So I do think that they can feel a little bit aggrieved. But it's like Gatland has said, this is his third week in a row saying that they can't use the TMO or a bad refereeing decision to blame the loss, because it was a substantial enough loss in the end anyway, and they've lost 7 in a row. If this was one-off game where they'd lost it on a bad decision, they could be given out hell. But you've only yourself to blame if you're in this position where you're 7 losses straight, 8 in the entire competition straight. He's said that himself. He's like, those aren't the deciding factors in why they're losing.
And there's you can it's obvious to see these big play decisions, the knock-on decisions, but there are other decisions, other penalty decisions, other turnover decisions that are going their way. I know it's easy to get outraged, and it's really fun to get outraged when this shit seems really obvious, but it most of the time, especially as Sam said, across 7 games, it's going to balance out unless there's some sort of conspiracy against Gatland, which I'm not writing off.
Smurf behind the whole thing.
I may have pulled a few strings.
Smurf and the NZ media.
Yeah.
Cats out.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to disprove the Northern Hemisphere coaching method. I know what you're up to.
Yeah, actually, I hate the Lions. Fecca. I'm just going to... So South Africa supporter from now on in.
SH2021, woo!
And again, who's to say that even if that is ruled as a knock-on, Crusaders still don't go on to win comfortably. Do you know what I mean? Realistically, that probably would have happened because of previous records, and Crusaders are just a better team at this stage. Yeah, but it is obviously slightly annoying for them. But
there was a point before that where we did kind of mused that Chiefs might actually do it.
Yeah, when I got back to 1920, because the Chiefs scored nine in a row there, 9 on the bounce unanswered, so the momentum was with them. But I still think the Crusaders. Well, again, there's no really point in speculating anything, but I think they would have went on out to win. But on a positive note, though, another bit of Richie magic for the last try, beautiful sidestep and a pass, and he's just again showing his class at that position. Going forward, then next kind of fixtures for Crusaders, they host the Highlanders next week, and then the Chiefs go to the Canes, which is another tough. There's no easy games in Super Rugby.
Yeah, it's like this law of averages thing is freaking me out now about Chiefs. It's like
exactly. Yeah,
like Liverpool playing Watford when Liverpool are undefeated. It was like we have to lose at some stage.
Yeah.
This is freaking me out now. Chiefs do have to win something at this stage. Just with the Crusaders going to Highlanders, like I will get to it later, and I'd say we'll all be in agreement of what we think will happen there. But I'd say
Highlanders by 20. Yeah,
that's it. But I'd say the organisers are absolutely kicking themselves now that they didn't decide on having a grand final and they're just doing straight league format, because the Crusaders can tie it up now this week, and the Blues game is like a dead rubber at the end, which will be so disappointing.
They need to change that immediately. Is that possible too?
I doubt you can change the parameters of a league mid-league.
Why not? It's an unprecedented event.
Yeah.
I disagree. Well, I mean, Crusaders can't tie it up this weekend.
Screw you, Westy, for disagreeing.
Crusaders can tie it up
can't.
this weekend. They can. They're on 24 now, and Blues are on 22 with a game extra played, which means that Crusaders.
Rose point when they're uncatchable, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Blues have to lose this weekend though for it to be.
Blues aren't playing.
Blues aren't playing this weekend.
Off,
so
if
Crusaders get a 5 points off of this, they go to 29 points, and Blues will be on 22.
Yeah, they should have in the last round minus points for stuff, so they can get deducted. Again, I think I should run these things. These would be way more exciting if I was running this.
It was probably just an oversight on their part, thinking that this was essentially a way of keeping all the players fit. I doubt they envisaged it being the only rugby anyone would watch for months. And like, even when other rugby is starting to be on TV, like I've already checked out of the Australian one because I can't watch it.
I never checked in. If
I was in it for 2 weeks, but the third week the quality isn't that good. I prefer to watch the highlights of the Aotearoa again.
Well, I slept for half an hour during the Brumbies game.
Yeah, Westy got a nap in.
It was a good game. I was just wrecked.
Yeah. We'll move on to the second game of the weekend. Then Sunday morning, Highlanders versus the Blues. I only seen the highlights of this game because if any of the eagle-eyed viewers have seen, I'm actually not. I'm in a new apartment, so I was busy that morning. Blues start powerfully though. Ioane from the scrum. He's mauled Scott Gregory. Scott Gregory's had a tough Super Rugby Aotearoa.
Especially against the Blues.
Especially against the Blues. Yeah, nightmare first game. And again, I respect the bravery for taking that challenge on because I wouldn't like to stand in front of Ioane coming off a scrum personally.
Yeah.
But Westy, you've seen this game. It's a great win for the Blues, obviously away from home. But what was your kind of synopsis of it?
I thought it was good. I mean, it was a good solid win in the end. I think they definitely made hard work of it at times. It wasn't kind of a consistent 80-minute performance. But I mean, I think a lot of that was brilliant kind of leadership from Aaron Smith and the Highlanders. I mean, they got a very good try and they kind of cleverly took their points and kind of built their way back into the game. And there was a point there where I kind of thought maybe Highlanders might do it. But no, I think I said last week as well, I think the kind of leadership team, well, what I envision as a leadership team in the Blues kind of stood up to be Pelotu. And I think Caleb Clark was like, it was like week one, Caleb Clark. It was like nobody had ever seen him and didn't expect him to barrel through people. It's just brilliant.
Fool me once, shame on me twice. Yeah, I know. He is, because that crossfield kick from Bowden, he was in a disadvantaged position. The player had all the momentum. Caleb Clark was in the air when he got the ball, and he still just like, get off me.
I texted you at the time. I was like, please don't be offside, because I did not see how he got there in time. Like, and no one checked. I think they might have checked it off camera, but like, I was convinced. I was like, how did he get there so quick?
Yeah. Sam, what did you think?
Yeah, exactly the same as Westy, really. But I thought like 24-16 at half time, it was close enough. the end 32-21. It's not a bad showing from the Highlanders. I think that they haven't disgraced themselves. I know that, like, if you look at the table there, I just get it up now. They're not, they're on 10 points. Hurricanes are on 16. You'd think that Canes will beat Chiefs now next weekend and kind of open up that gap between.
You better hope they do, Sam. You better hope they do.
Yeah, well, I'll be sick next week now if they don't. But,
yeah, if Hurricanes lose this weekend, Sam will be mysteriously sick for next week's podcast, I would imagine.
But I just thought that I thought Blues were very classy in the way that they played. Like, there was nothing wrong with how Highlanders played. Like Wesley said, that there was some good performances. Aaron Smith was good. He wasn't given a second of time though. Finlay Christie was just absolutely everywhere. He's been brilliant the whole tournament so far, and he's just sticking his name in the hat as well. Like, so everyone, you keep an eye out for him.
I don't think his name has not been pulled from that hat. I don't think, unfortunately.
I wouldn't be surprised now. He's been absolutely excellent for the entire tournament, and like, I don't know offhand how old he is. I'll check now, but I'd say he's young enough. Is he?
I'll check. You keep talking.
Yeah, and then Caleb Clark was just brilliant. He ran the show, ran so hard. There was about 3 or 4 times, and there was numerous people hanging off him trying to get him down, and it wasn't working. And then the offload for Finlay Christie's were between himself and Barrett for Finlay Christie's second try towards the end was just, they were brilliant. The whole team, I thought Blues were excellent, and I'd love for them to be in with a shot. Like, if Crusaders did lose next week, to make it really interesting, because then there'd be a 3-way kind of push for the finish going into the last week, because Canes would still be in with a shout if they beat Chiefs this weekend. It would make for a really, really interesting tournament, finish to the tournament.
Finlay Christie's 24, by the way.
24, like, he's got good future ahead of him. Like, Peter Parnar's getting on now. Like, Aaron Smith's been around for a while. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he started being more involved in squads and stuff. So, like, he's a great player. He's such a good. I
think I said it last week as well. He doesn't make mistakes. You know what I mean? He's a solid player. He's gonna give you everything he has every week. Like, for the 2 tries he scored, he could have had 3 tries really if he was really greedy and tried it, but he selfishly again passed it off. The 2 tries, they were like classic sniper kind of scrum half tries, like followed the play the whole way up the field. Like, both tries, he came from the opposite side of the field pretty much to get them.
Yeah.
So, like, it was textbook scrum half play. It was brilliant to watch.
Looking at it here now, interesting little Scottish born.
Oh, well, that doesn't surprise me.
With a name like Finlay Christie, is anybody surprised?
Yeah, but he's still, as of yet, uncapped for the All Blacks. If I was Scotland, I'd be sticking a few.
Yeah. Now their Laidlaw's gone too.
It'd be interesting. Even if you got him to go to France and earn a rake of money in France, but play for Scotland, like.
Big boots to fill, though, Sam. Big boots to fill.
Big boots in Japan, anyway.
Big boots in Japan.
But I thought Beauden Barrett, and his goal kicking aside, because his goal kicking was poor. Like, I thought he was
40%.
Yeah, I thought he was, and one of those was just a complete gimme that they gave him, just to make him feel a little better about himself.
That's one even I was confident I would kick over myself.
I thought he was thoroughly underwhelming. I thought the kick was very good for Caleb Clark's, and the big skip pass for the try at the end were both great. But other than that, I thought he didn't run anything particularly better than anyone else would. It wasn't the Beauden I'm hoping to see. I was really hoping to see him be unleashed as the out half, because he has eyes for that out half and he wants to prove. And if he wants to displace Mwanga, he's going to have to do something massive now against Crusaders next week.
The one that I'm dying to see is Dan Carter.
Oh
yeah,
it's the Beauden I want to see.
I seen that he did a Q&A on Instagram, which I tuned into. But he was saying that he's still carrying that ankle niggle.
Is he on any wages here for Blues? Like, is he just getting the softest little paycheck ever?
Oh, can keep getting them checks as well, Dan Carter. You should be paid for just being that handsome. That's what he should be paid for. But are we a bit worried in regards to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't really seen a 80 minutes performance from the Blues where it was just complete and utter domination. It seems to be 20 minutes here, 10 minutes off, 20 minutes again, 10 minutes off. Do you know what I mean? We haven't seen like a dominant. Like, I feel like the Canes put up a complete performance against Crusaders to beat them. Have we seen that from Blues yet, do we think?
I don't know. I think that's kind of one of the ways that Canes kind of outfox the Blues, was Canes, especially in kind of their line speed, let's say, in defence. Like, they were 100% for, I mean, if not 80 minutes, 75 minutes, 70 minutes. Okay, I did say they had a kind of a brief lull in kind of the 60 to 70 minute mark, where they kind of couldn't do anything with their attacking ball. But I think their defensive kind of commitment for the 80 minutes was unbelievable. When I look at that compared to the Blues, I don't really see it there. Not that there's anything wrong per se, that's something they're not doing, but like they just can't seem to be that consistent for the 80 minutes.
Yeah, I'd say.
I was going to say I do think like they're missing a little bit in Hoskins to Tutu. Although you wouldn't know at the weekend.
Hoskins, by the way, who's still leading the league in turnovers,
Unbelievable.
having not played the last 3 games. So that just shows you the impact that they are missing that. But is a bit of that on Bowden, as you say, he has been underwhelming in a lot of games. Sam,
yeah, I think I definitely think that there is a bit on Bowden there. I think not unfortunately for him really because Aotearoa Black was actually doing so well at out half. Bowden hasn't been given the opportunity to run it from a 10. I was hoping he would do it at the weekend, and I was underwhelmed. There was moments of Bowden brilliance, like the big pass and the vision, and then there was before the big pass there was a beautiful dummy where he sold like he was going to do that exact same cross field kick again. Like, so there were moments of brilliance from him, but I do think that it's a lot of the reason they haven't been as consistent has been probably him coming in and out of form, but them wanting him to be like, I'm almost trying to play him into form by using him as much as possible, or by giving him what he wants. It was nice to see a Terry Black on at the weekend again, because those injuries, you don't want to see that, especially someone who at the time was riding such a crest of a wave. But I was just going back to kind of what you were asking about, like whether or not we should be worried about them. I think that if I'm looking at them versus Hurricanes, I think Hurricanes have the ability to play that 80-minute game of being absolutely dominating, but for it to not work every game, like you saw the first 2 games of the season, it didn't work, but then it's come good in the last couple of games. But I think what Blues are doing, and like personally, I'd love to be proven wrong because I'm not the biggest fan of them. I don't, in the long run, want them to be as successful as the Hurricanes. But I think that what they're doing is looking to build to get to a stage in the next few years where they have that sort of ability, like Crusaders, to win at a canter and turn it on when they need to. And that's why you buy players so you bring in players like Bowden Barrett and stuff. You bring in experience, you bring in good players. And like Dan Carter being in the fold, I know he hasn't played yet, but that's probably why he's there, is to kind of teach that mentality and bring that sort of thing in. Then with Tutu, who's going to develop into the player we think he is or hope he is. And that Dalton Papali'i, like Akira Dione, there's such a good squad there that with a little bit of consistency, even if it's not consistency of 100% domination the way that Hurricanes have played the last few weeks, consistency the way Crusaders have done it, and gotten to a stage where Crusaders don't have to really put the foot down if they don't need to. I think that's where they're probably looking to go in the next few years.
Because on paper, Blues are stacked. They've got amazing players across the board, but they just can't seem to. Because the last game against Crusaders, they're going to need that 80-minute amazing performance to really even have a chance, because that's how good the Crusaders are. But if you put them on paper compared to a Hurricanes, I would say on paper the Blues would look better. They've got amazing talent across the field. But just as well, we will mention Chiefs ended the game with a nice try from Westie's best friend Shannon Frizzell.
Oh yeah.
So that was nice. Had to give him a shout out. Obviously, friend of the pod. Final score though, 32-21 to the Blues. Probably I would say that's a fairly deserved scoreline. I'll take that silence as agreement.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, agree, definitely.
I'll letting Westy go in there, but I think it's deserved. It's not disgraceful on the Highlanders. I think it's kind of it relatively sums up the game as like Blues were just about more than a score better.
I think okay, so the whole game maybe just about a score better, but you have to give them credit. They had 10 solid minutes of goal line defense. Okay, you can argue maybe that yellow card should have come a little bit earlier, but even after the yellow card, defense was still there. It still held them out. I think, like as you're saying, okay, it's not the defensive structure that we see from the Hurricanes where it's kind of a lot more consistent, but I think every player on that pitch earned their fucking 11-point victory in that last 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm not getting at, like that they didn't deserve it. I'm saying like
you are, Sam. You are.
Highlanders were
asking.
like Highlanders were asking questions and asking questions and asking questions, and Blues were showing up with the answer to each. They didn't dominate. Like they defended absolutely brilliantly, but they definitely didn't dominate. And I think that, you know, under a 2-score victory, which is what it was just over a score victory, is fair on both teams. Which is what I kind of think. That's what I was trying to sum up there. I didn't think that, you know, I didn't think it was overly close, but I didn't think it was too far away either. Like, I don't think Highlanders were in any way, you know, whipping boys in the game. And I thought, like Smurf kind of alluded to earlier, I think Blues offensively or on attack came in and out, kind of drifted in and out a little bit. But I did think, like, defensively, yeah, we talked about it at the weekend, myself and yourself, Wesley, they were just unbelievable. Like, they defended so well, and the structure never dropped, and that was what was so smart about it. And you know, it was a good game. It was good to watch. But, like, you know, for me, the Super Rugby Aotearoa mentality is like going out and watching absolutely stunning rugby. I love a game that's 45-44, you know, that way. Like, but no, you can't deny the Blues are very good, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Crusaders lose next week and allow us to have that big finish on the last day.
It's worth mentioning as well, like, Blues were, like, last season, Blues weren't really anywhere near this competitive. I don't want to go as far as say they were the Chiefs of last season, but you know.
But they have been whipping boys for years now. Yeah. Like all the articles you read about them when you're looking up stuff for the research in the podcast and stuff is like Blues finally have their act together. You know, it's been years since they were good. Like,
that's what I'm saying is that, like, it's not all going to come together in one season. I think, okay, you can say, like, Bowden on the pitch, maybe not as dominant as we thought, but I think his influence is far more important off the pitch in the structure that Blues have. Like, if you look at that last 10 minutes, like, let's go back to 2 months ago when Bowden Barrett turns up day one of Blues preseason and breaks the Bronco record. Yeah. So I think Bowden and probably Dan Carden as well helped foster that, like, mentality of winning, that mentality of work rate. So, okay, maybe they're not contributing as much as we expected on the pitch, but I think look, I don't have Bowden's running statistics in front of me, but, like, I see him everywhere on the pitch. I see his work rate high, and I think that is something that's really pulling the team together. I think a lot of the leaders that I've mentioned in the team are seeing that and are matching that with their work rates.
They definitely are a team of leaders. Like, you look at any point, any of the, like, there's about 11 or 12 of them could be the captain on the pitch. Like, even when Hoskins Tutu was on the pitch for the first few weeks, we were saying, like, he was leading the charge. He was the lad that was getting the hold up turnovers and all that sort of stuff. Like, Tupelotu, Bowden, they're all leading it, which is definitely going to stand to them in the years to come. You know, you got a good development team there. It was interesting to see how much effort they put into the Bowden thing with him going off for a year now to Japan. Like, Aotearoa Black was doing so well at out half. Is the Bowden 15 the long-term project for them? Like, you're developing Aotearoa Black there for a year without Bowden, and then for Bowden to be not getting on. Obviously, he's not old at all, but, like, you have the chance to have Bowden at 15 and Aotearoa Black for the long haul there. So that might be what they're looking to do in the long run.
Yeah, I agree totally with what you say about the off the pitch influence. He definitely brings a lot. Highlanders though, no week off, no easy week for them traveling to Crusaders, which I think we're all going to be rooting for them this weekend just to keep it interesting. I think, you know, Highlanders have a chance, you know, to do something. In fairness, they're not by no means any slouches, so hopefully they cause an upset and keeps us interesting for the league anyway. It's always going to be interesting, but going forward for the actual championship and the champions. I think that's it, lads. Appreciate it as always. You can follow us, the podcast, on Twitter at @none_podcast. Follow the rest of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all in Masterdom Podcast. I'll be uploading on YouTube the full podcast plus snippets as well. Some hidden gems, you know, from Westy or Sam there. So look, lads, appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Catch you later.
See you guys. Yeah.